So this is the Braille keyboard that I've been working on, and once you have it plugged in, you can type like normal Braille. It allows you to get down to 16 keys. I have a couple of buttons on here. I have Control, I have Alt, Shift, and then the GUI button. Okay, and so if I do, and this is the tab button here, red one up in the upper left. So if I do UI tab, it switches between application windows. And if I do Shift Alt Tab, I can cycle between all the different things that are available, right? And so if I do that, and then I do, let's see, this one, and I want to get back to that text window for doing like coding. So I do Window Tab, and I switch between these two, and I do that one. So do UI Tab. So at least I can get between the windows, even though it's a little bit of a pain. And I would like to keep this out of the way of seeing me speak and show the screen to you. So let me get to the application where I can actually type in Braille and show you how that works. Okay, so if you want to learn Braille, computer Braille, you just go to this URL up here, that one there, right? And then when you're in here, you're ready to go. So you say H, and that's what you saw me type. I type it as if I'm seeing through the keyboard, so that like my left finger going down, that is like, so if I do HELLO, so I could either type it on the keyboard. Like if I don't know what I need to do, type a period, I type a period here and say, period looks like that, right? And of course in the instructions for this, you read that this is the space bar, this is backspace, okay? So I could either do Shift HELLO on QWERTY and delete it all. Or after I've figured out what those characters are, HELLO. And then you can actually reach just about everything that is available. And I'll show you some examples that might surprise you. So F of X equals, let's say X and squared, right? You want to do like oops. So you can see in real time if I screwed something up. ROBFIELDING. So what's really important is keyboard navigation when you're doing Braille. So for example, I hold the arbitrarily defined Windows key, and I do Tab, right? And I do Shift Tab so I can cycle through everything. And there you go. There's like Linux stuff. So if I do Control Tab, I can switch between all my windows. Right, and this lets me get work done, and I can actually use VI from inside this thing, which kind of blows my mind. So typing out some stuff, ls say -1, which basically means to list directory names and keep it simple, and then vi code dot py, and I go into vi, and when you're in VI, in the beginning, you have like those keys for navigating, left, left, up, down, right. So J, 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 J. And this is in VI mode. But also, once I'm not in VI mode, I basically use the same thing where I just set J, but then I hit the space button at the same time. So, for instance, so if I want to again and want to edit something, KKK to go up, and I want to press A in Vim to start inserting things. Enter, and then let's see, X equals, say, 5, right? And say, wait, I need to make that comment because that's not going to work. But now that I'm in actual VI editing mode, I need to actually use the arrow keys. So I add that button in there, and then while I'm doing that, oops, didn't want to include the tabs. Yeah, so so if I do, I want to go up, so it's K, but whenever you're doing the green keys, you have to release them all before the character comes out. That's a little bit confusing, but it's because the middle keys are Braille keys. So you just got to remember the middle keys and the green keys in the middle behave like they all come up and then a character comes out. That's how you make the keyboard so densely packed. All these other ones are like momentary keys. So, you know, like if you want to hold down a shift, you got to keep your pinky down. Because when you do like a tab or something like that, it's gotta come up after. So yeah, so these are momentary keys, and the tab key, which I'm not going to press, which is this one here, that one sends that tab as soon as you press it down. But with this, you can pretty much do everything on the keyboard. So let's go back to doing Vim. When I first started using Vim, I would get stuck because, like, how do I type carriage return? Well, one thing I eventually learned is Control-C is equivalent to carriage return. But if you look at if you just look at a list of Braille dots, you have no idea that there's an actual pattern. But once you figure out the pattern, you go, oh, escape key must be like this one. So if that's the escape key, you do escape, and you do one for semicolon. Right? And oh my God, I see the colon at the bottom for VI. So I do Q, and I do the exclamation, and then I do enter, right? And if I want to go back to the web browser, and go, yeah, go use Shift Tab to cycle through them all. And now that I am here, I can cycle through my tab windows. So let's try Control Tab. Yeah, so a couple things to note is when you Shift Control Tab, you can go back. So here I am looking at a place that has code to actually this is the actual code that drives this keyboard, right? So I want to go back to go into this directory, yeah, and then and I just want to show you that there is an actual place where all these Braille things are defined. So in here for enter, and here it looks like a random match of things, but this is like an iPhone case that I'm ready to, I can 3D print, but I want to start building these keys into the back of it so I can make an iPhone case that actually like has a keyboard built into the case. But that's not the code that we're working on right now, but that's what that is. And then let's see. If we go down to see the README, I will just actually use the arrow keys. But arrow keys is defined as like a special character. It requires .8 to go down, so you got to like release the whole thing. But in any case, this is all of the Braille stuff. The standard Braille fonts in this web browser are hideously unreadable because they use dots that almost look like the dots pressed down rather than a marker, so you can just kind of locate it. But in case you can figure out what the dot patterns are, but looking at this is kind of illegible as they are. So yeah, so I showed like you can get into Vim, you can switch between applications, and keyboardless navigation is actually the most important thing to like learn with like Braille, because unfortunately, even if you're blind, you have to use the UI, and there ain't no point in clicking and mousing going on if you are totally blind. But a lot of people just can't read the letters, so they can actually still use a mouse. I'm that way in one eye a little bit. So let's see. So if I do switch between applications, so I'm going to use Shift and Windows key until I find the place where my code is, and say I want to run top, TOP, right, and do Enter. And I want to do a Control C, so I don't use up a whole lot of the keyboard for it. I just like have a Control key that I hold down, and I just type like a normal C, and it kicked me out, as it should. So, in theory, I could kind of like just not use my keyboard at all. I'm not quite there yet until it's really good, but I am trying to eat the dog food and do some real work with it. For example, there's a program called RL Wrap under Linux, and the point of it is to developers kind of lean on this program so that they can get like up, down, left, right functionality in programs that actually do it. And I'll use a math program called Maxima. You notice I haven't looked at the keyboard, and I can't look at the keyboard. But if I do get lost, what I could do is I could go back to that Braille typing app and go figure out like what I really need. So I'm inside of Maxima, and it's for doing computer algebra. And I imagine that's like really, really hard if you can't see. But basically everything I'm doing right now is things that people that can't see do. Like people who are blind actually write code to make 3D prints, and they don't get to inspect it until it's literally printed, which is kind of badass when you think about it, like making 3D models in your mind in code, and then you print them, and you can tell if they're right after you've waited 6 hours for the damn thing to print. Okay, so in Maxima, I wanted to find a function. I'm doing similar to what I did before. I'll say f of x, yeah, and then I think I need do I need colon equals? I don't know. So I think it is colon equal. Let's try that. Colon equals x. That's the times. Yeah, x times say 3. And then I want to do a semicolon to terminate that statement. And I'm not sure if it liked it or not. Oh. So I did something wrong. So I do a. I think the way that I stop the processing of it is I do a Control C. Is that right? Yes. Okay. So f of x, and I do think it's colon equals x times 3, and then I use not colon but semicolon. Okay, yeah, so do so type f of say f of 2. Okay, and I'm going to do a semicolon. What's the result? The result is 6. Okay, so it worked. In Maxima, you can do pretty complicated mathematics, but because I'm in RL wrap, I can use up arrow, down arrow, all that stuff. So if I do, I think it's is K up, yeah, and go back, so I don't have to retype all my commands. So I can go through the history. So H, J, K, L. So L is to go back down. No. J is to go back down. So, right, using VI bindings, and wherever I can, if I have to use special stuff, I'll try and make it more like VI, because the whole point of this is a keyboard that's like really, really good for doing computer programming. It's super compact if you are not blind, but if you're blind, you're like, oh my god, it's computer-braille. That's pretty cool. Although regular contracted braille is absolutely nothing like this, but you could sure you could go into VI and start typing things in contracted braille, and you can like read them as contracted braille later on because they're actually an ASCII subset. Anyways, that's the end of my video. I think it's pretty awesome that this keyboard is pretty easy to get to this stage. Things like holding things down and waiting for it to repeat them. Like if you want to do a space bar a million times, it's kind of a pain in the butt to press and release a whole bunch of keys. Like it's a little too slow. But other than that, it's coming along really well. And I'm kind of surprised that because I did my yeah, let's go back to this. This is what I'm a little surprised by. That when I start using this, this is like the way to like learn Braille, because you type it on a keyboard if you don't know what the dot pattern is. But if you know the dot pattern, you can check it out here. So, for instance, what is that? That's a % sign. You know, what's that? That's a slash. Or you can go the other way around, type it on the keyboard and see what it looks like. So that's like a really wonderful combination to have. And it is created by this guy here, which cost me about $50, and it wasn't too hard to set up. You just copy the code to it, and because it shows up like a thumb drive, and you just overwrite the thing called code.py. It's a little tricky to hook up to the debugger. So like when it crashes at first, you'll get really frustrated and say, damn it, it would be easier to just write it in C, because at least I can compile it first before I put it on. But once I figured out how to use screen with it, it's not that bad. So yeah, it looks pretty cool. Anyways, I'm going to end the video. I'm like really happy with how it's turned out.